This is a VOW FM special broadcast. The COVID Report Show, Monday to Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Exclusive to VOW FM 88.1. Hear it.
Since lockdown is not ending anytime soon, we look at what it has been like for our mental health to be existing in a time of a lockdown. What is the impact of having our liberties taken away? Our liberties such as running freely at any time, our liberties of being able to surf at any time, our liberties of being able to buy a cigarette. And to do that, we are joined with Damaris Motlhapamaswi, who is going to engage us on what the lockdown has actually done to much of our mental health. So my first question is, what happens to individuals in the country when they've lost access to many things that they once had before?
You know what? I can tell you there is quite I even name it collective loss. There is quite a lot that people have lost during this lockdown. I'm going to unpack it in this way. Like I said, it's a collective loss. We lost sense of everything. Sense of routines, sense of the way we used to do things, sense of life in general. So I call it grief in a way. So we are grieving in a way. It is anticipatory because it's something that we know, something that we expected, and we know the outcomes can be bad. There's no way they can be good because it's a virus and a lot of things can happen. People lost their loved ones. People lost their jobs. People lost quite a lot of things you can talk about. So in a way, to our mental health, it's taking its course. It's taking its course because people, they can no longer cope with being indoors. People, they can no longer cope without having incomes because, you know, some people's incomes, they depend on them being outside on the streets doing quite a lot of different things. So I can say it's a lot on mental health.
Absolutely. I think my next question for you is mainly on the idea of merit and the idea of a hierarchy of concerns. You spoke about the public mourning the loss of these liberties, these things that seemed benign and everyday as concepts by themselves. The idea that if I want to smoke, all I need to do is get myself a cigarette, and if I want to go surf, all I need to do is hit the waves. Now we live in a time where we can't access where surfers rather can't access the waves to surf. Cigarettes have been outlawed, so you can't buy them from shops and whatever. And as far as the social discourse, there seems to be an inference of hierarchy in terms of the things that are a priority for you to worry about, the things that are a priority for you to mourn in this instance. So my question to you is, for those who, for example, will say, oh no, I don't like that these surfers are complaining about not being able to surf. Do they not see the bigger picture? Or I don't like that so many people are complaining about not being able to smoke. Do they not see the bigger picture? Is there a question of the validity of the mourning of these liberties that we've lost? Or is there an instance where the public needs to see this bigger picture and needs to view the temporary loss of these liberties as a necessary sacrifice for the greater good?
Okay, I like the word you used for temporary. It's temporal. So we differ as human beings. So the way we accept the changes in our lives, it differs. So like I said, it's a grief to everyone since it's a collective loss. So for people to adapt, there are stages of grief. It depends on an individual how you are going to take it, how you are going to proceed. But then I just want to unpack the stages of grief that are included in the situation. So from the first one, we have the denial stage. In the denial stage is whereby people, they just can't believe the lockdown is happening. Like, to some of us, it's still a shock to say, no, there's no lockdown. No, maybe next week probably things will get back to normal. So it's the denial stage. Another stage, we have the anger. Some people are angry at everyone. It can be the shops. It can be the president himself to say, why did he just come with such regulations? Why did the health department come with such regulations? For example, we can't even go to bottle stores. We can't even go to gym. We can't even do, remember, people's lives, they depend on a lot of things that now on lockdown they cannot do. So after the anger, we have the bargaining. On the bargaining stage, it's whereby people now, I can say, they calm down a bit to say, okay, President, we can comply with the regulations of lockdown, but then if we comply, will you allow us to go to gyms? Will you allow us to smoke? Will you allow us to go and buy alcohol, for example? So in a way, we are bargaining to say, now we can comply, now we can stay at home, now we can sanitize, we can do quite a lot of things, but provided we get 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. So the other stage, which is very sensitive, it's the depression part of it. So some people, they're not taking it well. They're not really following the steps as to how I'm unfolding them. So they end up being depressed. It starts with stress, the depression, and then it escalates to depression after stress, because some people, when they're stressed, they normally say, no, it will pass, I'm fine, I'll be okay, without consulting, without voicing it out so that it doesn't escalate to depression. Because the moment you are quiet, the moment you are not talking about whatever that is bothering you, it is busy piling up in your mind to say, and then at the end of the day, you'll have a headache or migraine or something like that, because the mind could not breathe. You didn't allow the mind to absorb the positive outcomes of the situation. You kept on dwelling much on the negative side of it, until the mind couldn't take it anymore. So then we will say the person is diagnosed with the depression. So the last stage of the grief is the acceptance part of it, which is very, very difficult to do, because it takes long to go to the anger, denial, bargaining and all that. So the stages are not really you really don't have to follow the way I was unpacking them. It depends on the individual. They can start on bargaining and then go to anger, and then some they can start on depression and then go to acceptance part of it. So it depends on an individual, but it is possible. It is very much possible for an individual to end up accepting that, you know what, this is what has been happening, and I try to make sense of it. I try to equip myself with coping mechanisms, and this is what I've been doing, and really it brought quite a lot of positive outcomes. So I've adapted 1, 2, 3. I've adapted to cook, for example. I've adapted to just bake or work out at home, and it really, really worked for me. So hence I reached the acceptance stage of it. So it all depends on an individual to say, how are you taking it? How do you view this whole thing? Is it something that it's really, really tampering with your mental health? Okay, we understand with routines, everyone is affected, but how you deal with it, it's very, very important so that we reach acceptance, all of us, at the end of the day.
Some very important things that I resonate with what you're saying about, and I think many people do, in that it is a collective grief, and we are all experiencing this collective grief individually and in very different ways. There's going to be a time where COVID-19 is going to be on the back pages of the newspapers, as Dr. Zweli Mkhize said. There's going to be a time where COVID-19 is no longer in the front page or what we speak about every day. And when that time comes, do you think there is going to be a collective post-traumatic stress disorder? Because there's been many conversations happening that living under such conditions is going to breed this condition in us after we come out of this. What is your take on that?
Okay, like you mentioned, there's going to be a collective post-traumatic stress disorder. I can say yes, because it will be, like, as it's post, we first experienced the collective loss. So it's post what we have experienced. So I can say a lot of us are going to be through the post-traumatic stress disorder due to what has happened to us, things that we lost, people that we lost, a lot of things that we lost touch with. Some of us, our mental health will be affected. Some of us at home, we are stuck with our partners whereby things were not so fine, and that on its own, it's a lot. So we will be reflecting back, and to some, the reactions will not be good.
Well put, absolutely. And my next question, I think back to those. I mean, you just expounded on the grieving process, the process of grief, and you broke it down so eloquently. For those who simply can't deal with the temporary absence of these of these vices that they've come to incorporate in their daily lives. I'm talking about those who love to smoke, those who love to drink alcohol, those who perhaps love to go surfing, for example. And because of their inability to cope with the temporary absence of these vices, certainly through legal terms, they go about pursuing them illegally. So the smokers go and buy cigarettes on the black market. The drinkers go and look to buy alcohol on the black market. The surfers go and try to occupy beaches when they aren't open to the public. Is there a degree of personal responsibility that needs to be taken by these individuals, or is it symptomatic of the times that we live in, and the idea that breaking the law, so to speak, is justifiable almost simply because I'm struggling and I need this to cope?
Like you said, citizen responsibility. So I was talking about it the last time to say, as much as it is affecting a lot of us, but you have to think about the future. You have to think of whatever the implications that will come after you have went and did something that is going to land you in trouble. So it's difficult, but we do have therapy. We do have therapy for those who want to stop smoking, for those who want to get rid of their negative behaviors, negative thinkings, negative attitudes and all that. So I will advise people to get therapy as to how to cope with not being able to smoke, how to cope with not being able to consume alcohol. What is it that I can replace the feeling with? There are quite a lot of activities involved for you to replace whatever the cravings that you are addicted to, whatever the kind of behavior that you always do when you cannot get what you want. So to avoid quite a lot of things, to avoid a lot of consequences after the lockdown has finished, I urge people to consult. People consult mental health practitioners so that they can get solutions, or I can say adjustment to whatever that is happening to them. So you know how their brain works. It's amazing. And it depends on an individual to say, okay, this is what I want to train my brain to do. This is what I want to train my brain to get used to. So you go to a mental health practitioner, and normally we use those routines as well to say, okay, this person wants to get rid of this on their brain system. It can be a routine, but it can be changed. Like I said, the brain works in a very, very, very amazing way. So if you want to change things, you can still consult your brain. You are in charge of it. You can do a lot of things. You can manipulate it, but through the help of the therapist who's going to guide you and say, do this, do that, do that. And the way you respond as well, it's going to tell your progress in that. So it depends on an individual, your willingness to say, I want to beat this. Then I don't see why you cannot do it.
Just one last question that I personally have. we come from a country that is highly traumatized. We've heard a lot of the word of this is an apartheid state. This is a totalitarian regime that is currently happening. But for a country that actually has experienced actual harm such as apartheid, for those people who are stuck at home, who don't have access to therapists currently, who don't have mental health support, and outside of setting a routine, outside of the mindset, what else can you advise them?
Since a lot of people, like you said, I forgot, some people, they cannot access therapists, but we do have online platforms. We do have toll-free numbers that people can call to get hold of the therapist online. So I don't know if you want me to share the numbers, the toll-free numbers that they can contact, or the WhatsApp links, or there are quite a lot of things lately that people can do to get hold of the therapist without face-to-face.
Well, please, by all means, share share the numbers that you are at liberty to share with us.
So a lot of us, we have resorted to online, but some, they just prefer face-to-face. But then during this level, I think we are allowed to see clients face-to-face, but with precautionary measures. So we do have quite a lot. Let me start with the AKESO. We have a AKESO psychiatric response. It's 24 hours. It's free, the toll-free line as well. It's 0861 435 787. We have the ADHD helpline as well. 0800 55 4433. We have the SEDEC mental health line. 011 234 4837. And then we have the suicide crisis line as well. 0800 567 567. This one, it does have SMS as well. So if you feel like you can't talk, you can still SMS to 31393.
Absolutely insightful stuff here on the COVID report. We were joined by Damaris Motlhapamaswi, helping us unpack the effect of the temporary loss of the liberties that we've come to associate with our everyday lives that have been so cruelly taken from us, temporarily, albeit, during these trying times in our continued fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation, the eye-opening conversation into these matters. And I hope that everyone who is still struggling to deal with the temporary restriction of a part of their lives that they've come to incorporate into their everyday lives. I hope that anyone struggling can take the avenues that we've suggested and we've covered during the course of our conversation. And I hope that they find the willpower to not allow these vices to overpower them. Thank you so much for joining us on the COVID Report.
Thank you so much, and stay safe, guys.
One more time, we thank Damaris Motlhapamaswi for her time here on the COVID Report.